know that yung startup ecosystem, dumadami na rin eh, yung mga investors. I'm not sure if you've been in the news,
That
pero dami na eh.
Yes, that is so true. You know what? I would honestly say that's 100% correct.
Have you ever thought of thinking and starting your own business? I'm sure you're having lots of thoughts, questions, doubts, but the more important question is how do you start your business from scratch? If you have an idea already but you don't know ano yung next steps mo, you're in the right place. So welcome to our episode, and title of the episode is How to Start a Business from Scratch. And syempre, I have my partner with me, Nell. How are you, Nell?
I'm doing great.
You're
How
doing
about you?
good. Are you excited for
Yes.
today's episode? Syempre, we
Yeah.
have a guest today. I'm bringing in Nico Luciano. Hi, Nico.
Hello, hello everybody. Hi, Chris.
All
Hi,
right.
Nell. How are you
Hi.
guys doing?
Thank you for having us. Thank you for joining us.
No,
Nico,
thank you actually for having me and putting me in your show.
yes, we're glad. No, we're glad to have you here, and this is a perfect an episode kasi we're helping entrepreneurs in the Philippines. We want to change their mind, eh.
Yeah.
Especially ang dami ng investors here in the Philippines looking for entrepreneurs who have an idea pero they don't know how to start. So, let me introduce you to our show. Okay, so Nico here is the CEO and founder of Ride Radar. Okay, so I'll let you introduce Ride Radar. But Nico started in various startup companies and tech companies before. No? And from what I understand, Nico, you have do you have a background in business or totally opposite your college degree? Tama ba?
No, my college degree is in psychology. I never had a proper business training. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so my background is really misfit to what I'm doing now. So it's a really interesting thing to say and an interesting story as well. How I started into the business and into the entrepreneurship.
Oo. Siguro, I think we can start off with that. What made I think it's a big move, di ba? It's a big move from psychology. You were educated in the science of human behavior. Ano yung, what triggered?
Yeah, so I think I have a very unconscious sorry, not unconscious, but it's in my subconscious of really starting a business, because I think during the early days of my childhood, my grandma actually has been a very important part of, I think, my journey in entrepreneurship. Every time that I would go home from class, she would always ask me to sell snacks in the neighborhood. And even though, as a kid, you don't want to deal with it, you don't want to do it, but it's because you love your grandma, you would still do it. So it was really out of my mind as well to go into business and into entrepreneurship. How it was triggered was when I was hired by eBay. It was my first experience with the tech industry, and that's also how I realized that I don't want to be I don't want to be an employee for the rest of my life. I don't think also I'd be able to create a good income for myself if I would stay as an employee. And it's because I love to be involved in so many projects in the company. I love my hands to get dirty in so many initiatives in the office. It gave me so much insights of the business. It gives me so much insights of what's happening within our industry. And after that, it was really I met a friend in eBay where he was telling me, like, why don't we start a business? We both love football shirts and vintage shirts. So while I was already about to finish my study in psychology. I made a big move. Like, you know what? Why don't we try? Like, why don't we try this just as a weekend project?
We're talking about Ride Radar right now, Nico. No, can you give us like uh, your elevator pitch to our customer? What's Ride Radar?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, Rider is a tech startup in the Philippines that we launched a few years ago. In fact, I think we officially started 2021. So what we exactly doing now is we are an aggregator platform of multiple logistics providers in the country. We're putting together the first mile, the middle mile, and the last mile into one platform. So it would be easier for businesses, for online sellers and e-commerce, and for anyone, for people to compare prices among different delivery providers for the on-demand and also for standard delivery, and they get to see which one is the cheapest and which one is the best option for them. It's like similar to how Trivago works. You go to Trivago to compare different prices of hotels. But for us, we designed Ride Radar specifically for logistics now. So we could get to help people save their time and their money, and without the need also of creating multiple accounts with different providers. And yeah, so that's what we're doing at Ride Radar now. And yep.
What makes your app different from other apps? Do you have a competitor?
Yeah, we do. We do have a competitor, but what makes us really different is the how easy it is for us to access multiple data points and price points in just few taps. We offer also insurances for every deliveries that they're doing through our platform, and we offer also some of the best deals of logistics price exclusively in Ride Radar, which I don't think it's also available in with our competitor. And the best part is that our platform is for free. We don't charge convenience fee. Unlike with our competitor, they charge you a certain fee for using their platform. And also the best part is we are a full suite of logistic solutions from the first mile to middle mile and last mile. We put that together. At the same time, we are the largest aggregator platform of logistics network in the country. We were able to build that in a very short period of time, and we're just starting, Nell. We are, and I think
Right.
that's what makes us different from our competitors.
Sounds good. All right, let's go back to your story. All right, let's go back to your story, Nico. Ano. So, I have a question here. You were talking about your motivations kanina, no? Kasi that's how to start a business starts with your motivation, diba? Your desire
Yeah.
to for yourself, I guess, or for your vision. So let me ask you directly this question. For you, do you want to follow which came first? Following your passion or finding a profitable niche?
Um, I think what came first was really the motivation of wanting to do something for the community, while at the same time also earning. I don't want to build a company. I don't want to build a business where profitable is not also part of the concept. We understand that some people they build their business out of passion. Although this is all, I'm fully committed with Ride Radar's vision and its mission, but I started also from the motivation of I wanted to solve some of the pain points, real life pain points that
Mm,
I myself experience, and then on top of that, I needed to put a component of how to make money, because I think
yes.
that's also the goal of the business. You couldn't run a company without thinking also, you couldn't run a sustainable business without also thinking of how to make money. So I think it needs to be parallel with your passion, and it needs to parallel also with your vision for the company.
Okay, very good, very good. And we keep saying that here. That's why capitalism, when it started, no, uh, made countries rich and it reduced poverty because of that profit thing, no? Because if you create a business without that profit in mind, it's not going to be sustainable. So for you, you mentioned that you have to mix passion because you won't be able to sustain it also, but you also have to have that profit. Let's go to the business idea. So this is the second step for our viewers. It's finding your business idea. So I want Nico for you to maybe uh, guide us on ano yung mga steps you took. Specific steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And syempre, we have a lot of questions pa. So maybe a summarized version of the steps when it comes to the idea generation. Kasi later
Yeah,
we're going to talk about the business planning. So how did
sure.
you arrive at your business idea? You mentioned pain points, addressing market gaps, but how did you design that? If you can
Yeah.
still remember, I mean, it's been since 2019 pa siya.
No, I could still vividly remember how things started with us. So honestly, with how we started the business, we took the very unconventional way of building it. It really started from our just really discussing things and discussing ideas with with my friend, which is also my co-founder in Ride Radar. What are the things that we personally experience? Like in our case, at that time, we experienced how people wasting their time and their money in traffic, and how terrible it was to do bookings. At that time, we were just trying to really find solutions for our own problems until we realized that it's happening for millions of people, for millions of commuters in Manila. And that's when we see that's I think what really made us push it. It's because I'm a very data driven kind of guy. I mean, it's really part of my job to always understand the data. It made me think like, oh, there's actually millions of people experiencing this problem, so we have a marketable, like there's a sizable market for us to actually start a business. And then so we just really thinking of at the time we were thinking of, when we had the idea already of what we wanted to build for the problem that we've experienced. We were already thinking of what are the high level things you could think of to put this together. So we were thinking of, okay, this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna talk to different um, providers and encourage, and let's pitch to them the idea. So to I think this is not a secret anymore, because I've been telling this to people, like how we started with Radata was, I pitched to the providers as if the platform at the time was fully ready. The platform wasn't ready at the time. I was just trying to do my validation if they wanted to be part of such ecosystem. And when I get that validation, that actually gave us so much boost. Like, okay, they wanted to be part of it. I know, and so it gave us that kind of, yeah, like that aha moment. Like, yeah, sure. They are so positive with their response. So even before we actually had the had the guts to really start things, we were doing our validation. We were interviewing people. We were asking people like, would you be willing to pay if, let's say, we have this kind of platform helping you find different rides in just few taps of buttons.
Sige. I have a question there, no? Correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're saying is uh, the idea, so you have an idea, you started with a problem that you experienced yourself.
Yeah,
Tama? And then after that, you came up with a solution to the problem.
yeah,
Then you immediately pitched it and validated to the actual potential customers.
yeah.
Am I right?
So we validated it with the delivery. Sorry, at that time with the ride sharing companies. And when we're able to get like 90% of the people that we interviewed or that I pitched to, they were very positive about it. And we started also talking to some of the people in the office that I used to work for, and we were able to get their validation that, hey, yeah, we would be willing to pay if there's such a platform like that. So
Okay.
so that's why I was telling you earlier that the process for me or for my co-founder were very unconventional. I mean, the processes were very unconventional. It's because we did not start with an idea of wanting to create that platform. We actually started with a
All
pain
right.
point. I really like pain points, and that's where we built that's how we created the idea of building a centralized platform, and then build from that step.
All right. So normally ba hindi validation yung umpisa or ang nauuna ba for our audience, no? Para lang may idea sila. Ang usually may idea na solution na sila, tapos bibuild na nila yung solution, tapos ite-test nila sa market kung okay o hindi. Tama
Yeah.
ba ako sa understanding ko? Di ba yun yung usual thinking, no?
Yes, in the ideation
Pero,
process. Yeah, so sorry, Chris. In the ideation process, they normally start with an idea first, right?
okay.
And they would start building the product based on their idea without even doing a validation. Or so that's why a lot of products that they push out, or a lot of features that they push out, sometimes are not even necessary, because they build that based on the idea, but not also validating it with the target audience. Because I think it's
Mm,
very important for people when they're building, when they creating a solution, or when they are trying to build on their idea, it has to be validated, or at least do some research. If your
all right.
validation is not through talking to the potential customers, at least do your research, do a market research. There's a whole lot of data available that people could just go online and search. Okay, what's the space looks like, or how my solution is gonna look like if I start building on this, if I started building business on this idea.
Okay. So, let's go back to validation. Give us some tips here. Let's say, ano yung mga kailangan nilang isipin? And is it applicable sa lahat ng industries? Can you give us some steps and anong industries kailangan pwede mo
Yeah.
i-validate? Or pwedeng common sense lang. Like, kailangan nila ng ganito di ba? Or
Yeah.
ano yung mga questions na tinanong mo just to validate?
Most of the time, you just need to really trust your common sense, or just have common sense, because the problems sometimes are very obvious. The solution is not, or sometimes the solution is actually very obvious, but people have been very familiar people have been very used to the problem. Like, you know what, we just roll with it, we just deal with it, like we just roll with the punches. That's how normally people would work, until we would find rare people, or you would find few people that actually willing to take on the problem and the challenges of creating a solution for that specific problem. So I think, if you're gonna ask for my point of view of how you would be able to validate your idea, we started asking with the potential customers of Ride Radar at the time. We were interviewing, and conventionally, the the commuters, and we're asking them, like, hey, what if there's this kind of platform that allows you to compare prices and allows you to see availability from different providers? Would you be willing to use that, or would you be willing to pay? Knowing the psychology of Filipinos, which we are very price sensitive, we always say, like, oh, there's bayad, there's like, why I have to pay for it again. So
Mm,
that's one of the, like, we have to put that into consideration. So we were trying to validate how much they're willing to pay. So part of the questionnaires that we had was, if there's a platform like this, how much would you pay? just for you to get a quick ride and to be prioritized. And we were able to. That's also we're able to figure out what's gonna be the price points or the pricing methodology of our product or our app at that time. It's because we were able to gather feedback. So we asked a lot of people, random people. I asked also many friends. I've asked office mates, and just people actually that I could talk to, and we
Structured ba
figured.
yung questionnaire mo? I mean, do you have a sample size na you were targeting? Kasi you
Yeah,
have a psychology background, di ba? So I
yeah.
guess you were able to use that in your analysis. But can you give me
That's
a number?
that's actually true. So we run the survey with more than 100 people. I needed to have that market size to represent the audience population that I was trying to target. So I would always say that even in my experience with psychology in research and measurement, my major is actually research and measurement. So a lot of stats. You so for you to have a really good like a good insights of the problem you're studying, you need to have at least 100 people responding to your
Okay,
survey.
sige. Ito, last question na lang sa idea generation, no?
Yeah.
And for our audience then, I'm curious, since you did the validations sa mga tao, is it, am I right that Ride Radar, from my understanding, kasi it's a B2B business, di ba?
Yes.
How will that affect yung sinurvey mo since more on consumer side sila? How is that valuable for you?
Yeah. So when we started, it's because at that time we were wanting to get into the B2C market, right? And so we interviewed, of course, the individual consumers until it really made us pivot our business when we deep dive into the space of logistics. Because so from being a ride sharing aggregator, we became a logistics aggregator. It's because also of the situation, because of the pandemic, we needed to pivot. We
Uh,
needed to we needed to shift the business model entirely for us if we wanted to survive, the pandemic, and if we wanted to continue growing our business. So
okay.
how it validated our idea was really, well, there's not a lot of people would actually do deliveries on a daily basis, right? Like if you're an individual person and you don't have a business, would you use the service on a daily basis on the
No.
logistics? Like, no, right? So that's also one of the things that we're looking at. Like, okay, if we are still going to target the same audience that we're targeting for the first idea of Ride Radar, we're not gonna make it. We're gonna spend so much money in acquiring them, but we're not gonna make. But they're not gonna put so much. We won't be able to create a lifetime
Okay.
value out of that customer. So
Sige, sige.
that's when we shifted entirely to B2B, because we were thinking like, what, one business have a lot of deliveries, and what we wanted to build on is really on the volume of transactions.
Let me, I like that point kasi for our viewers who are not familiar with startup tech concepts, hindi nila alam ibig sabihin ng pivot, di ba? Pivot is parang joint yan, di ba? It's pivoting. You're switching you're
Yeah.
switching focus, or it could be a strategy, or it could be a market strategy. So that's what it means, no? Now, I like what you said na you're pivoting because of a lot of factors, no? Syempre, yung business survival, that's one. Tama? And then
Yes.
also yung value, no? Kasi when you're pivoting, or if you stay here, yung platform mo kasi has a value that's being solved, diba? So, yung binild mo na product, you're creating value from that. And from a capitalistic perspective, kailangan yung value mo magamit. So, sino ba yung customer na pwedeng ma-appreciate yung value and talagang maximum use. So that's why I was asking, is it B2B? And I think yung pinaka value adding talaga ng platform is the B2B. So that's how companies are growing. So you have to find out ano yung market as well that can really love and enjoy and use your product. So now, tama ba ako, Nico? Am I right?
You are absolutely correct. You're saying all the right words.
Okay, very good. So ngayon, tapos na tayo sa ideation, no? Kasi we will still cover yung business planning, legal consideration, how you built your team, and how you financed your business. So that's also, doon tayo mag-focus. Pero next natin is business planning. Okay? So, Nell has a question. Nell.
Nico, ilang hours or days did you created your business plan? And also, may mga iterations ka ba sa plan?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of iterations that's happening. Sometimes we do that, on a weekly basis. Like we needed to, the iterations. When you create a business plan, it doesn't mean also that's already the perfect plan for the business, because you need to gather insights and you need to gather feedback from the actual users and the actual customers of your platform, in our case in our business. So for when we when we were trying to pitch to the investor, we needed to have a business plan. We needed to have a business strategy on how we will be able to grow the business and prove, the concept of that there's really potential of growth for our business. So I think if I'm just gonna put hours and days of how many days we've created our business plan, I can honestly say that it took me more than 1 week to build the business plan. Like I was building a thesis, or me and my co-founder, it feels like we're building a thesis for our business. So the business plan has to include so many things, but what's really important there was really the the business model, and also the methodology of growing, and also, basically the strategy also of how you wanted to on how you wanted to move forward with your product, and how you scale also your business. So, um, I would say that there's always a lot of you need to be open of doing a lot of iterations. It doesn't mean that you've already created a business plan. It doesn't mean that it will stay as the same. Like what happened in our case, we do a lot of iterations, and we try to understand also what are the things that needs to be prioritized in terms of our product development, and in terms also of how we wanted to push the business out. So
Okay. I
yeah,
have
it's
no,
sure.
I just want to touch on you mentioned business model was yun yung center, no? Ayun yung key factor in your business plan. So just for our audience, syempre kasama sa business plan. You can find it in Google. You can search Google how to create a business plan. But my question for Nico is ano yung mga questions ng mga investors about your business model? Kasi yun yung if that is the center of
Yeah.
attention.
So normally to that, there are questions like, how do you make money? Like, how do you plan to monetize your business? Because there are some ideas that are really amazing, on paper, but don't have the component of, well, how do you make money out of this idea? Or how do you make money out of this business? Because at the end of the day, you have to present to the investor that this is going to be sustainable, and in the few years time, this is going to be profitable, because that's how you sustain the business. You could not run a business by begging money from investors and not thinking about the profit, or making it profitable as well. That's very important for the investors. Why would they back you up if you don't have plans of growing their money as well, or growing their investment with you? So that's why the business economics of your business model has to make sense. Because, for example, you would tell the investor that, yeah, this is our business model, this is how we wanted to monetize it. But if you take a look into the unit economics of your business model, sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like, you're gonna earn this much only, but you're actually, in on reality, you're spending so much money just to earn this much. And in the perspective, in the financial perspective of the investor, they might not, they might find it not fitting to, to how they wanted to grow their money with you. So
Mhm.
those are some, that's why those are the important things that being asked by the investor. What's your business, what's your economic unit, because it has
Okay.
to make sense.
All right, going back to that, ito na yung magandang discussion no. Um, did you change your after receiving those questions about monetization strategy or economics? Uh, ano yung change mo sa business model? Or did you do that? Or happy sila sa monetization mo?
Yeah, so to be fair with you, even before I went in for an investors meeting, we already put that in place. Like, I
Mm.
needed that to be really part of our strategy. I needed that to be really part of our pitch. Because
So happy
you,
sila. Is that what you're
they were,
saying?
they were happy with how we put monetization into the business. In fact, I've also heard feedback from them. They were very supportive of the business model. I got also feedback, but I think I just for transparency as well, I've talked to different investors, tons and tons of investors. Also, I got rejected. Like, I'm not gonna lie that, I wouldn't tell people that it was a walk in the park, as it wasn't.
What's
Um,
your rejection rate? Curious.
Sorry, what's my
What's
rejection
your
rate?
rejection rate? You have an
99.
idea?
I would say 98%.
Sorry.
Wow.
Before I even got investment, I've talked to tons of investors, and a lot of them were, they would say like, "Oh, you're too early. You don't have traction yet. Oh, we're not investing in this industry." So there were a lot of reasons for the investors, and that's why you have to learn to develop also a thick skin when they say no, when they reject you. It doesn't mean also that your business doesn't make sense. It's only doesn't make sense for those kind of investors, because they have a different agenda. They have a different mandate for their fund. So, but what's really interesting there, Chris, was they, for the investors and for the VCs that were willing to provide you feedback, take it. It's a really gold mine if you try to understand their insights, because it
Okay.
and that actually gave me a lot of insights also of how do we change the business model. Because at the time, at the early stage of Ride Radar, I was already saying like, oh, we have three business models, we have in how we gonna monetize the company. And then it turns out that my last business model for the monetization was actually not making sense for Ride Radar. If you don't have, because it will only happen if you already have thousands of users. And at that time,
Mhm.
like, we didn't even have a lot of users. So the investor was telling me like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you
Sige.
can actually scrap that out, and you can still earn from the two business models that you put in place.
That's good to hear. So, let me localize it para sa audience natin who went here to this show, finding out, okay, so if you, mamaya we're gonna touch on the investment side. No? Pero if you're already looking for investors, or if you have already talked, uh, according to Nico, if they're giving feedback, that's also a good sign. No? And even if they don't invest, uh, be open-minded.
Yeah.
Okay, malapit na tayo sa investor, no? But let's touch on yung business, kasi yung next step niya after yung business plan. Did you set up a formal company? And what kind of company is that? Kasi yun yung next step. Or pwede kang mag-skip to investing, securing investors kagad. Ano yung ginawa mo?
Yeah. So on the case of Ride Radar, how we've done it was I was already talking to different investors, even to friends. I'm very grateful that some of my friends actually supported me, even before we created a formal entity. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. My bad. My bad. I was already talking to them about the investment opportunity, and while we are also on the process of registering our company in SEC, um, there was an opportunity for us at the time to get investment from a Dubai from an Emirati investor that wanted to invest into the Philippines and to the startups. So, and part of the requirement was really for us to be legally registered. And although at the time we are already generating some form of transactions, we're already generating some form of transactions, but we're still in the process of thinking, should we register now? Because this is also one of the one of the I think one of the challenges for most entrepreneurs. Like, do we register now? Um, or do we register after we get an investment? But my suggestion is, if you're all if you already after for the institutional for the institutional fund,
Investment funds, yeah.
for the investor fund, make sure that you are legally registered, you have all the legal documents. And in our case, we did that first. So we registered a corporation in SEC, because we needed also to we needed to have a corporate bank account, we needed to have a legal entity, and we needed the government documents for the investor to push through, because those are some of the um, legalities that they would look at. Of course,
Mm.
they they it's either they met you through their LinkedIn research, or they met you through an introduction from another folks they know. So you have also to build that trust that your company is gonna is a legal company, that they're not
Okay.
only putting they're putting money into a legal institution.
Yes, yes. Okay. So for our viewers who are not familiar with yung mga venture capitalists and yung mga institutional companies who are, big companies who or just throwing money, uh, they they basically looking for. It's hard if you don't have a business kasi syempre ikaw ba mag-invest sa tao lang, 'di ba? Dapat may entity may corporation where the money will go. So yun yung isang factor. So depende sa business mo, I guess, no? If it's a startup tapos malaking money ang pinag-uusapan natin, it would be best to have your own business. But if you have a small business that you can start, no, if it's a trading business, if it's a sales business that doesn't require any of that, no, if it's a service, then possible na you can start on your own, no. Pero syempre best pa rin if you set up a business, legal company, no, kasi if your client is big, di ba, then kakailanganin mo ng receipts and all that. All right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
now,
But
okay.
let me also add into what you said, Chris. Don't get me wrong. There are some ideas that get investment before they even have tractions, before they
Sige,
even
tell me more
have.
about that.
Yeah. So it's it, there. I wouldn't say that my experience it's entirely different also for different people and for different entrepreneurs. Like I've heard some of my friends in other parts of the world, they were able to get investment even before their product was ready. Like
Mm.
they were still on the prototype, and they already got an investment. It's because also there were investors that they are really investing into the founder, and they
Mm.
believe so much into the founder that yes, he is the right person that can deliver this product, that can create this product. probably because of his experience. So there are some investors also that if they believe in the founder so much, the requirements for the legalities are would normally come later.
Okay.
However, it's a very small
Rare
um
yun.
it's a rare occurrence in the VC world or in the investment world. Most of the
Mm.
time, especially if you are doing cold contacts or cold emails or cold calls with with different investors, then it's important that prior to talking to them, you already have the business entity or the legal entity.
Mm. Okay. Very good point. Very good point. Thank you for that. And yes, rare yan. And syempre, we need to be ready as well, no, to invest in your own business, especially if you're looking for money. But again, it depends, no. So let's move to ito na yung pinaka-critical portion. And we've had economists as our guests before, even professor of a business school. And also we hear it in the news that the biggest challenge of small business owners, startup entrepreneurs, is really the financing side. Medyo struggling ang Philippines to get funding for their businesses to grow. So imagine, I think 90%, there's a stat that 90% of businesses fail, no? And
Yeah.
then there's another statistics that says, this is a global study, that 20% of businesses within the first year dies. And part of that is not just the first steps natin, ha? So we covered the ideation, very important yon. And then, syempre, yung business plan. And number three, yung financing. So, Nell has a question. Nell.
Nico, what are the local sources of funding available for startups in the Philippines? And also, how can entrepreneurs effectively present their business idea to potential investors or lenders?
That is a really good question. Let me give you first, Nell, how it was for Ride Radar. So, I think what's really interesting in our situation at the time was we don't want to really me and my co-founder have we don't want to bring in external fund into the business because we're very confident that we're gonna make money out of it. And we're at that time we're very confident that we're be able to really finance it from our own savings, and until such time where I needed to give up my job because I wanted to be full time with Right Radar. So I was trying to find a balance, like how do we sustain the business. It's either would should I continue working for other company and continue financing the business, but it's also but my biggest resources was also my time. If I'm not putting so much of my time into Ride Radar, into building this business, then even if we have the money, then we would not be able to grow it as fast as we wanted it to be. Now, I made the decision of really quitting my job so I could just focus on Ride Radar, especially in building and creating partnerships with the delivery partners. So and we thought I thought all along it's gonna be easy to get investors because we felt that we have a really good business case until we hit the brick wall. Like, oh shoot, it's not easy to fundraise, especially in the Philippines. I talked to a lot of VCs until I've realized, like, oh, they're not so easy in investing into the emerging market, or into the Philippines specifically. I've seen many startup friends from other region of Southeast Asia, and they were able to raise fund. Maybe not easy, but they were able to raise fund quicker than we're able to do so. And so that's also when I started really looking funding opportunities locally. So I started talking to some of my friends who used to do business with me in my other project, and some of them were very convinced of of the proposition of Ride Radar and our potential for growth. So they some friends invested few few money into Ride Radar, and we use that money to continue developing the product and to to really push out some campaigns for people to know that we exist. And um, then I still the fund that we got from a friend. Of course, it's a friend investment, so it wasn't that much, but enough to work on many things in Ride Radar. So I started looking for other opportunities. Luckily, though, I was able to talk to one of the one of the lead investors of Ride Radar when we were raising our pre-seed. They were very convinced of the growth potential of Ride Radar, and at that time also I was able to present it to them when we already had few attractions, and it's only a matter of volume for for Ride Radar. We just a matter of increasing the volume of transactions to Ride Radar, and then we would be able to make money already out of it. So, and the other options, there were, I can tell you now that in the Philippines, we don't know a lot of angel investors. We don't know a lot in we don't know a lot of institutional fund that would be willing to take the risk of supporting a startup. They usually, most of the fund that I've talked to here in the Philippines are usually um, if they're already on the Series A and above. We barely see VCs that's investing into the early stage startups. But what's really interesting now in the space of VC, there are actually now few funds available for for the early stage. That's actually a good thing. Some of the I think some of the well-known names in the country in terms of business, they already started looking into the opportunities of supporting and taking the risk of of investing into the early stage startups. And you would already few names you'd really see few names that really active in investing locally. And then what's one of the good thing also that happened was when the former president Duterte signed the bill for the startup fund. He understood the role and the contribution of the startup in building the economy of our country. So I think he put in so much time and so much effort of putting that together. And I think people now would be able now to pitch to DICT, would be able now to pitch to DOST, and they would now be able to pitch to another. I think there's another agency
Yeah.
that's being authorized by the government, where they can disperse the fund.
Yeah.
They have to do due diligence with the startups, and then if if the startup pass the due diligence with those agencies, then they would be able to access the grant. And the good thing is that it's a grant. The startup doesn't have to pay it back, so it's really taking out some pressure and some problems from the startup founder. And I think that's one of the ways on how people can, or how entrepreneurs, especially the Filipinos, can find investment. Because
Yeah.
for most part, I think Chris also is aware of this. And for the most part, we always look at the outside funders, the external fund. Actually, external, when I say external, it's actually outside of the country investors.
Mm-hmm.
And because they understand as well the risk of investment. So some investors, especially the outside investors, they have a higher risk, or they have a bigger appetite of taking the risk of investing into the startups in the Philippines.
Sige. Let me process lang that kasi this is the, I think, one of the most important portions of this episode, no, yung sources of funding. And I just want to do a recap of what you just said. So there are, syempre, the first is if you can self-fund it, diba? The better, diba? And then I think from what Nico said, he hit a brick wall, and then in terms of funding, and then he was able to generate some funding from his network, no. And then after that, you can uh, another option you have is external, no, and then there's a government initiatives in place as well. And I like that you mentioned that kasi hindi yan nami-mention masyado sa news yung DTI or I think meron din si DTI fund Pero yung
Yeah,
DI,
sorry. Yeah, that's the third agency I was trying to think. So
oh,
there's DTI, DOST, and DICD. They are the
yun,
three
yun.
pillars
So yung
of.
three
Yeah,
pieces.
yeah, that's true. Sorry.
And hindi siya na-mention masyado sa news. Pero it's now making an impact today because of that. And it was even mentioned by our former guest, the Dean of JG SOC, no, of Ateneo. And yun yung mga initiatives. So madami nang na-grant ng mga investors. So for all those who are watching now, medyo nag-i-improve na. Unlike before, no? And Nico, do you know that yung startup ecosystem, dumadami na rin yung mga investors. I'm not sure if you've been in the news,
That
pero dami na
Yes, that is so true. You know what? I would honestly say that's 100% correct. That the investors in the Philippines are also growing. Chris, I've talked to many investors that what their focus now is actually coming into the Philippines, investing
Mm,
into the startup. It wasn't that years ago when we were starting. It wasn't like that when the startup ecosystem in the Philippines were very early. And I think I kudos also to the people who have been really pushing so hard to promote the startup ecosystem of the Philippines, and especially for any local accelerators that just really encouraging talking to different investors abroad and saying that, hey, Philippines is now perfect for investment. We are an emerging market. We have actually the highest GDP among other Asian countries within our neighborhood. And that is so true. Like the economists would say about that as well. And that's also because the government is also pitching to other investors and to other potential VCs to come to the Philippines, do business with us, do business with our startups. And but what equally important also is that the founders of those startups, like they are going day in and day out to prove their concept and to really grow their business, because we have to prove something. Coming from a third world country and coming from an emerging market, we have to work harder than anyone else. And Filipinos are the most hardworking people I've ever known. Like, even if you put them, as an employee, if you put them, as an entrepreneur, they work so hard. They just needed a little bit of guidance. They just need a little bit of support. And that's what we've been trying to say. The government has to work with the private institutions. The government has to recognize the contribution of the startups into the economy of the Philippines. Otherwise, if they're not gonna support us, who are we're gonna have so much hard time as well of convincing the investor to come to the Philippines and invest into my startup. And I think it's now high time that we recognize the the role of the startup founders of still encouraging external fund to come into the Philippines and fund the startups. I had experience where I got rejected by a fund in UK. So I was having a I was pitching to a fund in the UK, and I was telling them the opportunity in the Philippines and also the opportunity of an investment into my into our startup, and I I got rejected, but I was also telling them that even if you would reject me, please look into other startups that's available in the Philippines that you are actually willing to invest into their industry. So I sent out some startup friends to them, and I think they're already doing due diligence, which is a good thing. So yeah, so the how would I say it is that there's now more confidence of investing into the Philippines compared to years ago.
Hey, I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm sure yung audience natin is, huy, may opportunity pala dito. Kasi sometimes they hear a lot of bad things, and it's not a balanced media minsan. They only
Yeah.
talk about stories na makakabenta, but these types of stories are not being shared. So, uh, there are, again, let's do a recap before we move to the next section, no, as we build your team na, no, kasi that's a critical part of being setting up your business. So for the funding, you have, self-funding, that's an option. Second is mga angel investors or friends. And number three, ito na yung mga VCs, no? Whether they're here in the Philippines or external. And then you have like government support system, those three branches of the government who can fund your business. So again, you have to look at your idea, your business plan, your business model, how you monetize that. And then we might forget there are incubator organizations also, no? So we're gonna touch those on the next few episodes. So like Startup Valley, and there are a lot of other incubators that are led by yung mga big conglomerates, no? Na meron silang startup ecosystem, and they're also funding those projects. So madaming ganyan, no? Like JG Summit, for instance. Ayala has their own, Globe also has their own, and Smart and PLDT has their own. So now we move to building your team, no, assembling your dream team. Hiring versus outsourcing. So yan yung mga we want to know. Nell, I think Nell has a question.
Nico, do you prefer talented employees over employees who have a good attitude?
So it's a tricky question, Nell. But I would say these things that when you're trying to build your team, um, always look for who are gonna be the hustlers, who are gonna be the hipsters, and who are gonna be the hacker. I'm really blessed with a great co-founder. So I'm the hustler in the founding team, and
Can you define
my
a hustler?
yeah. So a hustler is actually someone that's basically bringing in it's he the hustler is usually focused of partnership, bringing in sales and bringing in people together, and that's usually the hustler one. Like regardless of what the situation is gonna hustle. It's either to sell the product or sell the company or sell the value or the culture of the company. That's the hustler. So the hipster is very much focused on the design and the organization, and he's the hipster is the power behind the chaos of the hustler. The hustler is just thinking, like we're firing on so many cylinders to bring in sales and bringing investment. The hipster is the one that's actually organizing that chaos behind. The hacker is usually in the product development, usually the one that's doing their best to build the product and hacking it according to how the hustler and hipster are putting things together. I mean, that's how I would, that's how I would briefly define it. But people can actually look it up. But yeah, so look for people that's actually really good in hustling. They are really good in. They would be best fit in partnership and in business development, and also in sales and also in marketing. The hipster kind of folks, these are the kind of team members that you wanted to look out for, because they are really good in design. They're really good in details. They are usually good in organizing and putting so much process into your operations. That's the kind of hipster that you wanted to look for. And then you have the hacker. These are the kind of people that, no matter the challenges are, they will find a way to hack it. Like, let's say to build this product we need this multiple steps, and the hacker would come in and say, hey, there's another way of doing it. Like, there's just a better way and easier way of doing it. Let's actually do that, because it's better. They sometimes would tell you, you know what, this programming language is way better if we implement that instead of doing this, because these are the benefits. When so that's the kind of dream team that you wanted to build. But at the same time, there are people also that very talented but doesn't have a good behavior. And I think, if you're gonna let me choose between behavior and talent, I would choose the behavior. It's because commitment and passion and innate good character are something that you couldn't teach. It has to come from within. So if that's going to be the criteria of hiring your team members, always choose for someone that has a good behavior and has a good intention and has a good motivation of helping your business and your company. Because even if you get the most talented person but has the most terrible behavior, it will gonna create havoc and gonna wreck the culture that you work so hard to build within your company. So I would say, don't get me wrong, talents are very important in building your company, but at the same time, behavior and good character is equally important as well, because skills can be taught. The programming language can be taught. Character is not. It's not teachable within few days, weeks, and months within your company. But I would say also, have a culture, create a culture within your company that will be the guiding principle for your HR folks and be the guiding principle also for your team members. Like, this is the core value, this is the culture of the company. And that's something that you also wanted to be carried over, with your new hires or with your team members. Oh, I've learned this so much in eBay and Uber. One of the things I've learned in eBay is people are generally good. We always say that people always have a good intention. You just need to teach them, how to channel that good intention into more productive ways. And then in Uber, I've learned also the word super pump. This is the super pump in Uber is basically how excited you are on a daily basis to keep working on the idea, even though you know it's gonna be hard to solve that problem. But you are super motivated. You're super pumped to always, like, you're always hyping. You're always hyping, like you're always super energetic of creating such good solution for the market or for the community you're serving. Those are the some of the cultures I was able to pick from the company that I used to work for. So don't hate your corporate jobs. Learn from the corporate jobs. If you wanted to develop yourself as well, take the advantage of you being in the corporate job. And if you later on in life you decide that you wanted to do your business, at least you learn the best approach from the company that you work for, instead of you just going to the work and hating your work. You just take a lesson from your job. So yeah, I mean, I think those are, in a nutshell, I would say that there are some factors that you need to look out for in building your dream team. But at the same time, as a company, create your own culture, a good culture that people will be proud of, or your employees will be proud of.
I very much. That was the first time I heard about the hustler,
The hipster
hacker,
and the
hips. That's the first
yeah,
time. First time. So I learned already a lot, no?
Yeah, me too.
Aside from what you mentioned. So kasi I'm also building my, di ba, I mentioned to you, I have two startups also, no, I'm
yeah.
building. And then what I liked also is some companies kasi when they hire employees, it's not based on those dynamics, no. It's based on certain things. But that really, no, it's really about building the team together and addressing those gaps. And those three H roles are what makes it, scale your business. No, so we move to the next topic. Okay, and this is about marketing and branding. So we assume na ito na, no? So you have your own team na. Now it's the time to launch, and now is the time to get customers. Now is the time to build your partners. So I believe Nell has a question. Nell.
Yes, Nico, what's your initial customer acquisition strategy? And also, how do you stay competitive?
That's a good question. So, being a hustler founder, I need also to be a hacker. A hacker in a way that for us to not spend so much money into the acquisition of clients, the way I hack it is that I go to networking events because I can talk to so many people. I could understand their business and I could figure out, oh, you're a perfect client, you're a perfect customer for the solution that we built. So how we're doing it for the sake of discussion. Once you become a client of Ride Radar, we take care of you. We are very client centric, regardless if you're doing one delivery a day, and regardless if you're doing small volume of deliveries in Ride Radar, we treat you all the same. We treat your transactions with us as if it's a gold mine that we really need to take care. So regardless of your size, as you know, as a client of Ride Data, whether you're doing high volume or small volume, it doesn't really matter to us. What matters to us is that how we are providing value to our customer. Because one of the good things that we're able to learn, and I personally experienced this, is the referral. So it's because we're able to build good relationship and good experience for our clients. I must be fair. It's not always smooth on a daily basis transaction. It's not always perfect and sunshine in on a daily basis kind of transaction. But we do our best to solve and provide human touch to the to the issues and challenges of our clients. We love to always hear their feedback, and because you're gonna create an ambassador an external ambassador for your own brand. So Ride Radar as a company, we are very much focused with relationship building with our delivery partners and with our clients, because that's the only way we found how to really make them stay and make them really use your product, right? Because they know that whatever happens, you'll be there as a company to help them out. Um, there were times in Ride Radar where I needed to stay up so late because we were taking care of our clients. They had issues, so I needed to be up and not just let the team take care of it. I needed also to step um, in helping out our clients. Nell, did I answer your questions or I forget
Yes.
few things? Okay.
Okay naman, yeah. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for that.
I like that. I think again for our viewers, let me just process what you said. No, so first, I think what you just said is you opted for low cost acquisition strategy. That's why ang focus mo was hustlers. No, so that
Yeah.
reduced your cost. Kasi right now, just for our audience sake, the cost of advertising is getting higher and higher. No? Especially if it's a market na competitive. Let's say logistics, very competitive yan. So if you do that, it will take a long time, diba? You need lots of money to market that. So Nico's strategy was number one, relationship building and also networking. And from there, word of mouth, I guess. No, am I right in constructing that?
You are absolutely correct.
All right, cool. Pero eto, how do you stay competitive now that you already have a customer base? You have a customer base already. I've seen your partners and you're earning some, transactions already. How do you stay competitive versus we're talking about your competition, direct your
Yeah,
competition?
that's a good question. We For us to stay competitive is that instead of looking into how the competitors are doing it, we keep on focusing on our own value. We keep on focusing on improving our product, and we keep on focusing on taking care of our clients, sitting down with them, understanding, hey, what are the challenges that you have, and what are the things that you think can can help you out if Red Radar can do such thing for you. So um, what what I'm trying to say here is that anyone can copy anyone can copy what you're doing, but how you're building relationship with your customers are entirely different. When you're able to build a trust with your clients, that will make them that will give you an edge also as to why they keep on using your service. But for Ride Radar, for us to stay competitive, is that we really figure out with our clients what's the value proposition of Ride Radar. Why would you actually stay and use Ride Radar? So one of the things we're able to figure out at the early days of Ride Radar, part of our business model was to charge transaction fee for every transaction from our clients, and then we're able to realize that that's also one of the factors that hindered so many possible transactions to push through in the ecosystem of Ride Radar. It's because we were charging transaction fee. So we made a decision of removing that. It's because it can be offset, or actually more than offset, by the other business model that we put in place. And also, one of the things we put into our ecosystem to make us stay competitive and also very valuable for our community is that we provide exclusive deals in Ride Radar. We work it out with our delivery partners. They are so willing, and they're so very happy also to push out their brand in our platform. And that's why you would only be able to access that value if you are using Ride Radar. And that's also one of the things that I think made us a little bit different with the competitors. And I think it and also it always boils down to your execution, because you can have all the best ideas, you can have all the best strategies, but it always boils down to how you execute it. But again, one of the best things that you can do as an entrepreneur is always listen and hear feedback from your customers, the actual users of your product, because their feedback are very valuable in improving and optimizing your system or your product or your business.
Galing. Galing ng sagot. Thank you for that. It's very encouraging. And I think it's a good it's a good response is you go back to ano yung value proposition mo no.
Yes.
You go back, and number two, I like what you said, execution. Kasi yeah, marketing is okay, no? Pero if you fail in your execution, lalo na kung service, 'di ba? Uh, it will be bad marketing. So they will complain, di parang bad marketing. Ang challenge kasi sa mga companies, and I am talking to you entrepreneurs, if you're just focused on marketing without focusing on your existing customers, That's also marketing kasi customers are marketing. They share the good news and the bad news, no? So again, I like also that very you're using your psychology background and listening to the customers. You keep saying that, Nico, and you always go back to your value, your purpose, and also your execution is which is very crucial. Like I said, it affects the customer. Now, tama ba, Nico?
No, absolutely, 100%, 100%. Execution. They would say that cash is king in business, but I'll tell you now, execution is also king. So make sure also that you do it the right way. That's what I'm trying to say.
Uh, I agree. I agree. So now we're entering the final few questions, Nico. Kasi we've gone through, tapos na, nakabenta na kayo. Di ba? From ideation, you set up a business plan, you set up a company, you got an investor, now you got lots of customers. So now you're already no longer, you're still in the starting stage, but now how do you manage your, the changes that's happening? So let me switch the topic now and making it more personal, no? So I believe Nell has a question. Nell?
Yes, Nico. Entrepreneurs are often told, di ba, to start small, yet also dream big. Ano yung ano mo doon? Position mo doon, Nico?
Yeah. So I would agree with that notion of start small, but also don't limit yourself. Dream big as well. In fact, be very ambitious, but make sure also that your ambition can be backed up by your value, can be backed up also by your vision, and can be backed up also by verifiable data. So let me just break it down into sizable pieces, or into bite size. So um, in the case of Ride Radar, at the early days, we were trying to make a partnership already with the big brands. And for a nobody, and for a new startup, it sometimes it points to the question of, well, what are you actually doing, and who are you? Like, you're just a new kid in the block. Like, why would I partner with you? I have a big brand. Like, I have a well-known name. Why would I actually be part of why would I partner with someone with low reputation or with low credibility? So how we able to hack it was, instead of chasing the requirements and chasing the big brands, let's actually start creating value for the small providers. So we started onboarding, similar to us, new players in the market. We started onboarding um, small delivery partners, and when we're able to put them together, they started seeing value that Ride Radar provides to them, and that also created a good experience for our delivery partners, and it made other brand actually notice us. Some of the brands have actually reached out to us, but I used to chase them before. They were able to understand of what we're actually doing, and we never stopped. Based from the negative feedback, we actually took that as a source of learning and a source of understanding of, okay, maybe it's not the right time yet for us to be chasing big brands. Let's start focusing on the small providers, and then make it as the foundation of the platform, or the ecosystem. But it did not stop us also from dreaming. It did not also stop us from, just because someone turned us down, just because the big brand turned us down before, it did not stop us also from dreaming big, and it did not stop us also in pursuing our ambitious goal, which is basically to build the largest aggregator platform of logistics in the country. And now we're actually doing it. I mean, among our competitors, we are the one who has the largest inventory of different delivery providers. We're able to put together the first mile providers, the middle mile providers, which is we have now air cargo partners in Ride Radar, and we have also the last mile providers. So we were able to put together, and now even the big brands. Chris can testify to this. Chris can see some of the big brands and some of the big names in the logistics space in the Philippines, actually a partner of Ride Radar already. So start from something that you can work with. This is actually part of the culture of Ride Radar. That when we're trying to achieve something, and let's say we could not comprehend yet how we can get there, one of the things that we would always say is that, well, start from somewhere. Start something small, and then we keep optimizing it. We keep on discussing this with the team, and we keep discussing this with the client, and with our ecosystem, with our stakeholders, and let's figure out what are the feedback that are make sense, what are the feedback also that just purely feedback but wouldn't do much. So um I 100% agree with the notion of start small, dream big, and I would say as a founder you're already doing it, so just be ambitious, but make sure also that your ambitious is being backed up by reality. Don't just be overly ambitious and and stay there. Make sure you also work for it.
That's good. That's good. I like that. And for our viewers, I'm talking to you. That's very powerful, no? Especially the story of you reaching out to the big brands first, and then you realize, hey, no, they're late adopters kasi.
Yeah.
If you're targeting the big customers, they are usually late. No? So if you're building a company with that in mind, you have to consider that. So go for the early adopters, and the early adopters are the smaller firms, no? Kasi they're faster, eh, 'di ba?
Yeah,
And
they're
once
very agile. They're very agile in adapting to the new technology and to the new process.
Yes. And once they see that, the big brands will see, hey, mga smaller firms are ano na, are touching this your company, then they will naturally search for you. Diba?
Yeah.
So that's I like that story, and for you guys, yun yung advice ko sa inyo. So, eto may mga other questions na lang kami, dalawa na lang, and sa akin this is yung last na question ni Nel is something close to my heart. So, go ahead, Nel.
Um, Nico, do you plan to create another app soon?
You you mean another company,
Business, yes.
another business?
Yeah.
Um, Personally, I have lots of ideas, but right now I can park them because I was even telling my co-founder and my stakeholders and my team members that I have no plan B anymore. It's either Ride Radar or I die. That's how I would put it. My commitment now of building and growing this company is immensely personal. Probably because I've already seen how much we have created value in our community and um, how much the technology can really help out so many brands, so many online sellers, and I think that's a personal cause for me now. So you might be seeing me building another business in the next few years now. Who knows? Um, Opportunities might come, right? For me to build another company, but right now, I just want to put myself in the position of really being focused with Ride Radar. It's because I believe in the value that we create for the community, and I'm staying committed to really building this company and bringing out the value that we provide for the community. So that's my short answer. I guess that's not a short answer, but that's that's my take on this.
All right.
Okay.
I like your take kasi the reason we have that question kasi a lot of business owners bigla na lang may pumasok na idea tapos okay gawa na naman tayo at the expense of their current
Yeah.
business. And I think you're doing really great if you're saying, 'di ba, you mentioned kanina that you're out of the competition in your industry, you're like the big player, no, big leaders, no. So ikaw na yung nagli-lead in your industry. So that's a good thing. So and also yung logistics. Logistics is one of the challenging part
I
ng
know.
businesses in general. Ah. So
I
you're
know.
affecting other industries. So if our supply chain is much faster, you're doing us a good job, no? So please,
Yeah. I'm
be bigger.
I'm we're just I'm telling other people and also telling other folks and even stakeholders that riders just we're just starting and we're not even done yet. There are so many things that we wanted to optimize in the logistics and supply chain. This is one of the things that we never really we never understood upfront, like how much of impact we're able to create in just because we are in the logistics. But looking now into the data and looking now into the insight of the market and the industry, I could honestly tell you that Ride Radar is still not done in creating value in the logistics and supply chain. Philippines has the highest rate in terms of logistics price, and that's because also of our geographical situation. But there's also there's also the factor of fragmentation of the system of logistics. And us putting this together and connecting everybody and putting them together into one platform, into one ecosystem, makes a whole lot sense for us to help people and help the country drive to drive the logistics cost much lower. And you are right. It's not only affecting the logistics space, but the whole lot industry in the especially in the supply chain, in the e-commerce, the lives of our online sellers. One of the things that I personally value is that if we're able to see our online sellers making more deliveries in Ride Radar on a daily basis, that's a win for us, which means we're able to help that online seller have a very optimized logistics solution. And and because we could not consider a transaction if it's not being delivered to your customer. That's not a successful transaction. That's not also how Ride Radar would view at that. We always look at the successful transaction if it gets delivered to the customer. And the customer of our online service might be a repeat customer. It's because they're able to experience a good logistics. They're able to experience a smooth transaction with their logistics. So it work in both ways.
I like that. Kasi ito sa mga business people natin, no, logistics is really a big part because it increases the cost of your products. Eh. And that's the big problem here in the Philippines. Eh. Diba? Yung logistics, prices are high. And that's what Nico and his company is trying to solve. How do we lower the price? So he has that first mile, middle mile, and the last mile. So that's part of the technical terms, no? Yung sa paano papunta yung product mo sa customers. So very important piece din yan if you're selling a product, no? So and also your supply, no, going to you, no? It will add to the cost. Now, ito na, Nico. Ito sa akin, very personal tong question na to. And I'm glad Nel drafted this question. No? And it's about sino yung inspirations natin. So, Nel?
Yes, Nico, for our last question. Who is your role model in terms of tech? I know you mentioned the founder of Uber. So do you have other role models?
Yeah, of course. There are other three more people I look at. I actually look up to Pierre Omidyar, the founder of eBay, probably because I have the first-hand experience of the culture he built in eBay and the value that he created for people that just anyone can go online and sell and auction their product and they could make money out of it. And Pierre have been, you know, creating I'm not an ambassador of eBay, by the way. It's just that I had the opportunity to work for that company and I could testify of how many lives that the platform have changed over the years. and eBay may pivoted into an e-commerce now, but the early days or the early years of eBay, they were able to really create such good value for for their own set of customers. And of course, Elon Musk wouldn't be taken off from my list. He's still one of my big. I'm still one of the biggest fans of Elon Musk. It's probably because as a entrepreneur, Mr. Musk himself, he he had a lot of personal sacrifices just to put the business forward and the value of the business that is putting together. And I look up to this guy. It's because not because he is a genius, but because there's a real life value that he actually put out into the world, and the kind of mission that he wanted to provide for the world is just really it's just really inspiring. And I think for the tech industry, those are the people that I look at. It's because they have really great principles. They have really good personal values as well. We may not share the same aspiration in life, but in terms of how we wanted to affect the lives of other people, um, I think that's the common denominator why I look up to them.
All right. Thank you for that answer. Kasi kami rin ni Nel, our favorite is Elon Musk. So,
Yeah.
we're on the same. And that basically wraps up. No, I just want to give a summary here before we, say goodbye to you also. No, for our viewers who are struggling or don't know where to start, we give you some very basic steps, no, basic stages, no. So we went through that late. We went through from ideation. Syempre, yung motivation mo, you have to be very strong, and you have to have a well-defined purpose, and also your idea, and then your business plan and how to get the funding and marketing, and syempre, at the end you need to sustain it. So you have to look at leaders, no, great leaders who will inspire you, give you some sense of direction. And in the case of Nico, he was able to incorporate everything he's learned from the outside, no, we're talking about the companies he has worked with, and also some inspiration from some notable heroes in the tech space, no, and he used that. So I hope you learned a lot from this session. Again, for our audience, this is just one episode. We'll have a lot more, and I hope here's Nico. Nico, thank you again. I hope you can join us on our next episode.
Of course. No, I'm a big fan of your show. It's because you're doing something great for the SMEs, and you're doing something different for for the local heroes of the startup space. And I think
Yeah.
it's now high time that as a community we come together, we help out one another. And thank you also for putting me into your show, and for letting other people also learn from my mistakes. I've by the way, I've done so many mistakes before I get here. Like it wasn't a walk in the park. I've I mean I've mentioned it earlier. Like I had many rejections. So I don't want to just put out there in your podcast that all the good things, because there are days that as an entrepreneur you have hard time figuring things out, and that's okay. At least you're trying to figure it out. And 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 if you come into a community where they would be willing to support you, which is actually what your show is all about. And I think as long as you're able to change one entrepreneur perspective into like, yeah, I can, I can do this. I've learned that it's not always, we don't always have to put a successful phase. We have days, and we have times where we have hard time running the business, and it's not gonna be easy. And I really hope that your viewers would be able, the listeners of your podcast would be able to learn out of this. Um, and if if we could change one entrepreneur, then that would be a good thing for me already.
I'm happy to hear that, and I'm sure not just one. We have 10,000 viewers and subscribers, and we're expecting this. Not just this will not end. No, we're doing a series. We have a guest on yung mga incubators, no, and mga venture capital companies, serial investor. We're also bringing the show and a lot more startup entrepreneurs like you. So thank you, Nico. We
Thank,
enjoyed
thank,
the time
Nico.
together.
thank you,
All right.
Chris and Nell, and
Thank you.
nice meeting you. And hope to see you guys in person one more time.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
With that, thank you and see you on our next episode. And click the subscribe button for our Facebook and our YouTube channel. Have a good day. Bye.